Hello, and once again, welcome you all, my dear students, in the lectures of the macroeconomics. So, today, in this lecture, I will discuss about the aggregate demand, and in this lecture, I will give you some important points regarding the aggregate demand. So, first of all, what is the aggregate demand? In the microeconomics, in the first semester, or in the other slides, videos which I have already uploaded on my YouTube channel, we have discussed about the demand, the individual demand or the demand of an individual firm or individual person or individual product. And we have also discussed about the laws of the demand and supply. And we have discussed that whenever the price of anything rises, demand of that thing will fall, and the vice versa when ceteris paribus is there. So same way, when we are talking about the aggregate demand, the term aggregate means that's the total. Whenever we use the aggregate demand term, it means we are talking about the GDP of any country. This is the real GDP of the country. Real GDP or gross domestic product, or it is the total output of a country. That if we say that what is the aggregate demand? Aggregate demand equal to the consumption, the investment, the government, and plus minus x minus m, the exports and the imports. Collectively, we say when we add up the consumption expenditure, the expenditure incurred or paid by the consumers for their daily purchases on the durables and on the non-durable goods or the items and the services. And investment expenditure is the private investment, the investment made by the private firms in the purchase of the capital or for the depreciation purpose expenditure or for the construction or the housing plazas purposes. And another expenditure is the government expenditure, means government also demand various goods. When we talk about the expenditure, it means we are spending to buy, demanding the goods. So government is also demanding. Exported items, these are our items, and when we buy, when we produce, and these are the goods which we are selling to the other countries. This is the demand by the foreigners, and imports means this is the demand by the local people. So aggregate demand is that demand which it is the demand of all the goods and services produced demanded in the economy at given price level. So here, when we use the term price level, it means we are talking about the inflation. The price level in a country, that what is the price level in the country, and so when we discuss about the aggregate demand, it is the total demand of the country, it is the total demand of all the sectors of the economy, consumers, investors, private investors, the governments, and the foreigners. And at all available prices. I write here the definition that aggregate demand is the demand of all sectors of an economy at a given price level in a given time period. So the price level means the inflation level. So this is the aggregate demand. The consumption demand, the investment demand, the government demand, and the net of the foreign demands. So here I am trying to draw the graph of the aggregate demand. Vertically we write price level, and horizontally we write here the real GDP. If just suppose this is the aggregate demand curve. This is suppose 0 is the original aggregate demand curve, which is the graph, and the graph is showing that at these available prices, these are the quantity demanded by the economy. That higher the price level, lower will be the quantity or the amount of the goods and services demanded by the people, and the lower the price level, whenever the price level in the country falls, the aggregate demand increases. What are the reasons that aggregate demand falls whenever the price level rises? I'm just simply removing here. What are the reasons for aggregate demand curve downward sloping? Aggregate demand curve downward sloping. That why this line is falling, that whenever the price is falling, this line is falling, the aggregate demand is falling. So there are major three reasons that why aggregate demand curve falls when price level falls or price level is changing. What are the reasons? So number one is the wealth effect. Whenever the price level rises, when price level rises or increases, due to increase in the price level, people feel poorer. If just suppose I say that I have 100 rupees, and with this 100 rupee I can afford to buy 10 items. If per item price is 10 rupees, but if suppose I say that the price is now 11, but my income is same, my wealth is same. Now, do you think that with the 11 rupee price and having the 100 rupee income, do you think that I will be able to buy the same 10? Now, I will not be able to buy same 10 items because now my wealth or my income is only able to buy at this price, the 11 rupees price, only able to buy, just suppose, 9 items. So when in price of the items, the aggregate price level or overall price level increases, people feel that they are now poor, though they have same income. But the purchasing power of this income decreases because of the inflation, because of the rise in the price level. So that is why whenever the price rises, when price rise, people, this curve moves here, that there will be reduction in the overall or aggregate demand curve or aggregate demand. That when and the vice versa, when price level falls, when price level falls, considering the same example, that suppose someone has the 100 rupee income and the price level is suppose 10 per item, this person will be able to buy 10 items. But now situation changed and the price level falls. Now the price of this per item is 9 rupees per item and having the same 100 rupee income. Now with the 100 rupee, because person is decided to spend 100 on the same items, so the person will be able to buy 11 items. Though the income or wealth is not changing, but because of the price level change, people feel rich, that now they are rich and they can afford to buy more. So we consider this one, the wealth effect, that whenever price level changes, due to the wealth effect, people sometimes feel wealthier, sometimes they feel poorer. When price level rises, people feel poorer. When price level falls, people feel richer. Right? Now they are rich. And another impact, that why there is a downward sloping demand curve, aggregate demand curve, is the interest rate effect. What happens when price of the overall price level in the country rises? When price level rises, people need more money to buy the same goods and services. I am repeating again that whenever the price level in the country rises, people they feel poor. People they need to buy more money to buy the same goods. Just suppose people have the 100 rupees, they want 8 rupees 10, they can buy 10 items. If a person having the 100 rupee income at 10 price level can afford to buy 10 items. If with the same 100, if the price level is increased now 11, but people need 10 items because to maintain their living standard. To buy 10 items, they need 110 rupees. So, due to the price level rise, people need more money to buy same amount of the goods. When they need more money, they need to borrow. And considering the limited amount of the money available, because availability of the money is limited, so due to the pressure of the people need more money. When all people need more money, they demand more money, and due to the increasing the demand of the money, the interest rate is the price of money, increases. So we call it the interest rate effect, and the vice versa, that whenever the price level falls, people need less money, they demand less money to buy the same amount of the goods, so the interest rate will also fall. And the third reason that why aggregate demand curve is downward sloping. The third reason that why aggregate demand curve is downward sloping is the net exports effect. When price level rises, whenever the price level rises, what happens in the economy, how it affects the aggregate demand curve, that whenever the price level rises, but the price level in the foreign countries does not rise or doesn't increase, then the foreign made goods becomes cheaper as compared to the local goods. So the local people start buying the foreign made goods. And when price level in your country increases, then the goods, locally made goods, their price increase, so foreigners buy less of your goods. So due to this one, the net effect will be the negative, means you have more imports as compared to the exports. So these are the three reasons or three factors which are causing the demand curve to slope downward, and there are also the shift factors. Demand curve shift outward, aggregate demand curve, or aggregate demand curve shift inward. Aggregate demand curve 1, aggregate demand curve 2 means, if suppose this one is the original, means then demand curve shift inward, demand curve falls, means whenever the demand falls, whenever the overall price level rises, or there are other factors, they are causing this one to shift inward or outward. So in the next lecture, I will be discussing with you the shift factors, that why the aggregate demand curve shift inward or rightward or outward. So thank you for watching. I hope you have understood something about the aggregate demand. That aggregate demand means it is the total demand of an economy. And what is the formula of the aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is the consumption expenditure, C plus I plus G x minus N. So this is called the formula of the aggregate demand. It is the total demand or the real GDP of an economy. It is the total output of an economy or the demand of the country. And price level, whenever we use the term price level, it means we are talking about inflation level in the country. So hopefully you have got some idea about the wealth effect, that why we have the downward sloping, what are the reasons that demand curve is downward sloping. Because of the wealth effect, people feel poorer when price rises. Interest rate effect, people need more money whenever price level rises. Net export effect, whenever price rises, your goods become costlier for the foreigners and foreign made goods become cheaper for you. So the net effect will be the negative. And this is the aggregate demand curve graph. To draw the aggregate demand curve, vertically we have to write the price level, and horizontally we have written the real GDP level or the aggregate demand. And these two lines are suggesting the inward and outward shift in the aggregate demand curve. And what are the factors which are causing the shift in the aggregate demand curve? I will discuss with you in my next video lecture. So thank you very much.